Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Metrics and Mayhem, the South Jersey sports gambling podcast. I'm the Metrics. My name is Earl Phillips. Alongside me, as always, Dominic Melchior III, the Mayhem of the organization. Dom, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Earl. I had a great day. How about you?
I had an okay day. Nothing really much happening. We had a great lesson today in school.
Yes, we did.
Now,
what kind of school was that? The school of actual school or school of
No, it's a school
hard
that I
knocks?
teach at. I am a teacher, and school that I taught at, we had a couple great lessons today, so that was really the highlight of my day. Anything with you today?
Worked a little bit, and by a little bit I mean hardly at all.
Okay.
And then I had a fun day with you, my friend.
Oh,
it was a man
That's
day.
right. We did hang out today. It was a little mandate, and man, that was just an absolute trouncing that we had today.
Yeah, we for all the fans out there, me and Earl love to compete against each other. Obviously, the podcast is proof point of that. Fantasy football, our poker league, but every once in a while, we still like to compete mano a mano, one-on-one, like the gods intended. So,
Not to be taken lightly, but the events that we involve ourselves in, not for everybody.
No.
This is something
not
that
for the women and children.
No, hide everybody. So anyway,
We're the hard of hearing.
we did get down to it today, and a lot of handicapping going on this. I saw a lot of late line moves. My neighbor across the street actually informed me that some really sharp money came in on you today.
Well,
and
the Sharks know what they're doing.
Well, let me tell you,
when they see talent, they go at it.
They certainly did, and they were handsomely rewarded for the ass whipping. We'll call it that. That you laid down on me today.
That's accurate.
I guess I would actually have to win a match for it to be a competition, but I was definitely blank today.
Well, you showed up, and that's half the battle.
And that is half the battle. And if I were in Just Fantasy Baseball League, maybe I would win the whole thing.
You probably would, yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, we got out to it today, and two were complete blowouts. We'll give them that. We'll give them the skee ball. That was a bad one. And the arcade basketball, which those didn't happen. But I think aside from that, 4 close matches, but all went to you. Phil Steele in his college football magazine would come against you next year, given all those close wins.
Well,
so be prepared for that.
Phil Steele is a fat son of a bitch who doesn't know shit.
A very skinny man who knows a lot about college football.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't know anything about the pros, though.
Well, there it is. Except for that magazine that he wrote. But anyway, moving right along here, we enjoy everybody listening here on Metrics and Mayhem, and we do have a couple social media outlets that I'd like to remind everybody of. Please like our Facebook page, Metrics and Mayhem. That's where we do most of the posting for our podcasts. And also, if you're not with us on Twitter yet, you can look me up at EP3 Metrics. You can look up the page Metrics and Mayhem, or Dom. He's got a Twitter handle himself.
Yep, DM Hustle 33. The H is capitalized, as it was last week.
It still is. We're running a couple contests that we have here through the website, which actually our website will be up and running soon. Our webmaster got into a little scuffle, we'll call it, a little skirmish.
A grown man skirmish?
A grown man skirmish.
So a lot of yelling, a lot of talking about your 401k.
Yes.
And then, my boat's bigger than yours. Don't you know who my father is? Mm-hmm. All that kind of grown man skirmishes.
And that has prolonged the release of metricsandmayhem.com, which we will be releasing out to the public soon. But we are still running some contests through our social media outlets. We have the Eliminator Pool, which we didn't lose anybody last week in the Eliminator Pool. So everybody's still
I've
in that.
never seen a week where you didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, I know. We had a couple close ones, which I'm sure we'll get into
later. I
later.
thought somebody was going to take the Jets.
Yeah, well, great selection, as always. Our Super Contest, that's a fun one where we pick 5 teams against the spread every week. And DM Hustle is, I believe, riding that ship, but we'll get more into that later. And we also put up a DraftKings weekly lineup, which, we will also get into that. So we have those 3 going on.
Talking about getting taken out to the woodshed. If you know it's good for you, everybody who I pick for my DraftKings squad the first 2 weeks, if you didn't pick them, good for you.
Yeah, that was it was a pretty weak showing, but I can't say much because I can't throw a miniature football through an 8-foot square hole, apparently. And along with that, we also have our Donato's Pizzeria Fantasy Football Week 2 recap and Week 3 look ahead. So a couple of points that I wanted to just generically open up with.
Yes.
On our sheet right here. We were talking before we get together for the podcast. Handicapping versus fantasy football. As much as I've gotten into studying Vegas lines, I'm very here. I mean, you can see this stack over here. This is all my baseball.
Jesus.
I print this out. I print out
It's like a ream of paper.
It really is. So this is an ESPN chalk printout from every day. This is just baseball.
There's
I didn't do
300 pages in that thing.
So I print this out every day. I study line movements. I study public perception, and that influences my handicapping. And I spend a lot of time doing that. And I have found that I used to be great in fantasy football. And since I've gotten into this, I have gotten so much worse at fantasy football because I think with a different head. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that you've been stinking up the joint in fantasy the last couple of years. And I think it's because you've forgotten the one thing that all nerds forget.
And what is that?
The athletes play the games.
And what does that mean?
It means that the better athletes and the better talent win.
But even in fantasy football, just the difference between picking, say, having Ben Roethlisberger as your team's professional starting quarterback versus having Matthew Stafford.
Well, yeah, you got to pick the better talent. That's the thing. Like, you pick talent based on how it fits into your opinion on how they're going to do on a sheet.
Okay.
Now, a Moneyball aspect of it, which is great, but I mean, this isn't real. This isn't real sports. It's fake. You can maximize. You don't have to budget anything. Get the best talent. You don't have to pick the guy you think is going to be the highest upside. Just get the stud.
I have a tough time doing that. I'm looking for value
Get
too
the monster.
much.
Stop looking for value.
There's something fun about going to TJ Maxx and finding the Banana Republic, or do I sound like my wife?
All right. You're such a dad.
Wow. Anyway, the whole concept, though, it's really interesting. I mean, people who don't handicap and strictly play fantasy football look at people like Blake Bortles as a great quarterback, and it's a total violation.
And he's terrible.
He's
Fugazi. He's terrible. I mean, just if you have an opportunity to get a monster, pick him. Get Ben Roethlisberger in the 9th round if you have an opportunity. Don't wait till the 10th to get Blake Bortles.
Power rankings. This is another overall point I brought up. I wanted to put you on the spot on this one right here.
Go ahead.
Our Philadelphia Eagles. Well, let's talk about the Eagles first before I put you on the spot. According to ESPN.com today, on the Chalk website, you didn't happen to look at that today yet, did you?
I glanced at a power rankings. I know they're in the late 10s, early teens.
15 right now.
Yeah.
Right now the Eagles are at 15. How does that feel right now?
It's accurate.
You feel like it's accurate? Because I'm having a tough time, even if we just look in the NFC East right now, I'm having a tough time not envisioning the Eagles being the best team in the division with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, but are the best teams in divisions in the top 15 teams in the league?
Doesn't it seem right that the Eagles, if they were the best team in the NFC East, would be at least in the top 10?
Well, let's put it this way. You look at the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Okay.
Red Sox and the Yankees are always the top 2 teams in baseball.
Okay.
If the Yankees are the wild card team and the Red Sox are division winner, or vice versa, are they still better than, let's say, the Astros, who may win? Well, not this year, but I'm saying historically, like somebody who wins a division just because it's a shitty division. Like you're saying that. Why
don't we look at the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks that went to the playoffs? Right.
Exactly.
Do you think that they, with 8 divisions in football, as the 8th? Let's call it the 8th winning record, or
6th.
The 6th, right?
Or the 4th, really. The 4th winning record. They had
right,
the 4th
because they won the division. Were they one of the 8 best teams in the NFL?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
but they probably weren't ranked that high either, though.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean,
I felt like 15 was a little low for our Eagles.
15 is a.
Is that the Homer hat? Do I have it on?
No, I mean they're right around there.
Really?
They have to. I mean, they're such a young team. They're such a brand new team. They have to prove themselves a little bit. I mean, they had a great showing against a division rival who they know.
Okay.
And I mean, for all intents and purposes, they kind of got their butts handed to them by Kansas City a little bit.
All right.
In the 4th quarter. I mean, you have to clean that up.
Okay.
If you want to be considered to be in the top 10 teams, and if I feel like just because you win the division doesn't make you a top 10 team. I mean, like you said, like there was 10-6 teams that year that Seattle made it to the playoffs, who were probably in the top 10.
Was it? I forget who it was, but wasn't the 5 seed 12-4 that year? I think that.
Well, didn't the Patriots? Was that the year the Patriots went like 11-5 and didn't make the playoffs or something?
No, it was that's not that year. I forget what it was, but I for whatever reason I remember maybe it was Green Bay. Green Bay was the 5th seed, or somebody was the 5th seed. And they were 12-4.
Okay,
it was in another division, but it's
it
interesting perspective.
Yeah, and Seattle won.
So,
go figure.
So I have to take off the Eagles thong. I got to take off the green.
Take
goggles.
it off. I mean, it is also week 2. So
yeah, okay.
Pump the brakes.
All right, a little bit, but that did seem low, and this was another one that kind of shocked me. Just public perception.
Well, before we go there, where were they before? What week? Where were they week before?
Oh, I didn't look that up. I can
mean,
look that up.
If they were 9 and they lost, would it make sense to drop them?
Well, I think that's part of that overreaction, and to tie that into the overreaction, I mean, not that they didn't deserve to be dropped after the Kansas City loss. Maybe, to use your example, if they were 9 and they came down 6 points,
well, they lost. If they were 9 and they won and they went down, then you have a gripe. But they lost.
But to drop 6 points for a Kansas City team that just beat New England in their own house.
What do you want them to? You want them to stay at 9 or
no?
Stay at
but
10?
I feel that as the division leader of the NFC East, there's no way. Again, this is just my perception, but there's no way they should be at the bottom half of the league if they're a division winner. So at this point in time, if they're the best team in the NFC East, and I can easily make an argument for the Eagles to be the best team in the NFC East.
I can make an argument for the Eagles to be the best team in the NFL, but I wouldn't win.
Wouldn't win. The New England Patriots, Dom, power ranked 4th. Mm-hmm. You find that fair?
Yeah, very much fair.
And why do you
if anything,
don't say that's generous.
If anything, I think that's low.
Oh, right. They should be higher,
I think
right?
they should be in the top 3.
Totally agree. Okay, now here's the question, Dom.
It's 4. I mean, that means you're in the top 4 means you're in the championship game.
Then, Dom, if the New England Patriots are 4th, give me 3 teams that are better than the New England Patriots right now, because I couldn't think of one.
Well, the Chiefs who beat them. Yeah, the Chiefs who beat them.
I'm not going to interrupt you. I'll let you go.
Green Bay.
Okay.
And I mean, you have to put Pittsburgh up there.
All right. Well, that's
is that what the order was?
It's pretty close to how ESPN sees it. They actually have Pittsburgh's at 3.
I said 3.
Kansas City Chiefs are at 2, and how about those hot Atlanta Falcons? Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So Atlanta, Kansas City, Pittsburgh.
I just think that's extremely
Whoever wrote
low.
that's a smart person.
Well, but New England at 4th just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, you can't break into the top 3 when the first 3 guys are 2-0, and you're 1-1.
So you are what your record is.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Okay. You're telling me Atlanta plays New England. Neutral site.
They did that.
No. I'm aware of that. But Atlanta plays New England after the fact of what happened. 25-point loss.
That happened. I don't know if you were around last December.
Yeah, there was a game. I forget what week it was. But right now, if you have Tom Terrific and Bill Belichick playing in St. Louis, Missouri, right now. Right now. They set up right now.
I think they lose. I think the Patriots lose that game.
Really?
I do.
Wow.
And you know why?
No, I don't.
Because I don't think they have it figured out yet without Edelman.
You don't think the Edelman thing has... Okay,
I think the Edelman thing is bigger than everybody realizes.
Well, what about Brandon Cooks? Didn't they spend a lot of money on
Brandon
Cooks?
They got to figure out Brandon Cooks, too. These guys are... Brandon Cooks do. I mean, Chris Hogan's playing in a more involved role. They need time to figure it out.
But that was interesting, too, because I felt that when they brought Chris Hogan on last year from Buffalo, who was absolutely nothing, he was lights out.
Yeah, he was lights out because it was a limited role.
But even still, I mean, to get somebody with as much talent as Chris Hogan has, you bring in a Brandon Cooks who has an absorbent amount, much more talent than that. I would have expected that the chemistry to get.
Think of it this way: you get a closer. Closer pitches 1 inning a game. You take that closer, you put him on the mound for an actual starting role. He's getting shelled.
Okay.
You expose somebody a little bit more, and they're going to have to adjust.
So do you think then that this maybe the lack of chemistry comes from Brandon Cooks himself? Do you think it's coming from him? Do you think it's Tom Terrific?
I just think it's new personnel and a new offense, a lot of new players. I mean, year to year, teams are completely different. I mean, now Atlanta somehow kind of stayed the same, which is great. I mean, like I think eventually the Patriots will figure it out.
They lose their offensive coordinator to the head coaching job in San Francisco and still kind of manage to keep the wheels running.
That's Belichick's team. I mean, the offensive coordinator is a marionette.
That's no, I was talking about Atlanta. I thought you were talking about Atlanta losing Kyle Shanahan. So we're on different pages there, but that's okay. How about the and I know we talked about this before, but you're going to get to the Eagles-Giants a little bit more in depth. But I wanted to do, since we are a South Jersey-based podcast, we are big Eagles fans here, a preview of this week. It's our Eagles home opener, and they played the stinking New York Football Giants. Last I saw, and I can pull that up right now, the game was a 4.5-point line for
I can tell you. I have it on my sheet right
for
here.
Eagles. And that line has since moved up to 6 points. The Eagles are a 6-point favorite. If I remember correctly, this opened at 3.5 points. So the Eagles are getting steamed at the moment with a total of 43 points. Is that right? Wow.
It's an interesting. That smells like a blowout if I ever heard one. If the over-under's at 43 and it's a 6-point line, that smells like a 33-10 game.
Yeah, right? Or I guess Vegas is telling you 24-17, somewhere around there, right? 41, so maybe a couple points here and there.
Well, Vegas can't ever set a 20-point line. I mean, they did that one time, right?
You remember which two teams played for that? It was a 28-point line.
Was Seattle?
It was not. It was Peyton Manning in his prime with the Denver Broncos against those Maurice Jones-Drew-led Jacksonville Jaguars, and Denver covered that 28-point spread.
I mean, they do it all the time for college. I understand why they don't do it for the pros.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. There's not as much variance, you know.
You just can't. I mean, it's you see one or two double-digit spreads a week.
Right. So the Falcons play the Jets. What's your number?
13.5.
13.5. Yeah. See,
is that what the line is?
Well, that's. I think, a couple years ago when the Eagles played the Patriots and that was supposed to be a blowout and the Eagles won outright. That was a 17-point line. So that's substantial. But if Alabama, for example, plays like Texas State, that's a 45, 50
Texas
point
State
line.
Armadillos.
Oh, God, don't take me there.
Sinbad?
Don't you do that? Don't take me
there.
Island,
taking the snaps.
Stop. We're going to need a break early. We're going to need a break. Oh boy. Eagles-Giants, that takes care of that. We'll hear more about that from Dom in a bit. And then the last thing, our Eagles win total this year was 8 wins coming out of Vegas. Do you feel like that's accurate 2 weeks into the season?
I do.
Yeah?
I do. I mean, I think they're a young team. They got a lot of holes. They can't run the ball.
Okay.
And they can't defend a vertical passing game.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's going to be if you can't run the ball, you can't extend plays. You tire out your front seven on your defense, and you will lose games in the fourth quarter.
Carson Wentz right now on pace for a absurd amount of passes in his NFL career, which we are not looking forward to.
1,300 passes this year?
Disgusting.
Something like that?
It's going to be a bad thing.
Doug Peterson, thinking that arms are made you grow on trees.
I don't remember Dougie P's arm being that widely used. No, I think
I believe Doug being widely used.
Yeah, that's right. I remember a lot of Deuce Staley back in those days. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our next segment. Probably do against the spread.
Yep, all our picks against the spread, DraftKings, and a couple. Are we going to do some takeaways, or is that something that we just covered?
We can certainly do that. Yeah, we can go back and do that.
And what big spread this week is going to break your heart? And I gave you a gem
in the
last week
in the eliminator pool. Yeah, Dom was he was a good call with that. With those San Francisco 49ers, they hung in tight. None of those picks actually did win an outright, but that was definitely the closest by far. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with a couple of our next segments.
Now you got it, boy.